Lo and behold, this life and breath from and inside this tent wall, divided from there, from this blown word, by mouth like a sword, a command, facing this front and divided therefrom, from this arm, hand, thrust, deed, physically observing this, also like freedom exempt one, ones of this chief, ox, of and in this Waishya given kingdom of life, air, to continue in perpetuation from this arm, hand, thrust, hand, and deed, also like we, from, and of this massive, mighty, lifted up sea, blood, this divided therefrom, facing frontward of, and to this arm, hand, and deed, physically observing this to go from, and to this tent wall, inside, also, like anointed one, sick, with this mouth and by this word, blowing command, like an edge, sword, this tent door lowered, this pathway for, and to life, breath, and look at this breath of life in man, also, like ransom, redeemed, purchase, redemption price, delivered, keep this eye to see, experience, watch, and heed, as to understand, cover, then, this, and of this massive, mighty, lifted up sea, blood, and blood lift up of this tent door, pathway, also like to stand, remain, endure, and, for this, due to this authority, goal, staff, protection, bind, and control toward this palm of hand, open to tame, which bends and allows unto this given kingdom of life, air, as offspring to perpetuate, also like thus, therefore, rightly, surely, set upright, just, established, prepared, made firm, set up, fixed, direct, arrange, to this anointed tent peg, hook to secure, connect, this chief and ox, authority, goal, staff, control toward protection, this bind, leading and teaching, also, like not know, only, this authority, goal, staff, bind, control toward protection, leadership and teaching, this chief, and ox, also like no other, cannot, if ever, why ever not facing this front and divided therefrom, of this anointed tent peg, hooked to secure, connected to this family house inside, and in this tent floor plan, also like restored, if ever turn back, if ever, for whatever reason, not to see, heed to and understand to get covered by authority, this staff, goal, control toward protection, bind, leading and teaching, also like yoke. this from this chief, and ox, mighty, lifted up sea, and blood lifted up. This Yahuwah-given kingdom of life, air, and sprouting seed, also like surely, faithfully, truly, all this from this chief, and ox, lifted up sea, blood, this Yahuwah-given kingdom of life, air, and sprouting seed, also like truly, from this chief, and ox, all of this mighty, massive, lifted up sea and blood from this head, and a person lifting up this head, again, of this head, topmost rule, first possession, and inheritance. And this top man from this beginning, also like I say, speak, show, declare, command to those of this chief, ox, oxen, and oxen of this chief, mark, signed covenant, strong indicator, strength, and identification of people, place, and thing, of life, breath, and this breath of life revealed in man, also like to you, of this palm hand, open to tame, subdue, bend, and allow, this arm, and hand, thrust, hand, handiwork, and deed, to physically observe, also like for, when, if, surely, indeed, in order that, all, if ever, for whatever reason, not of this palm of hand, open, to subdue, allow, authority, this goal, staff, and control toward protection, this binding bind, leadership and teaching, also like all, every, whole, if not having an eye to see, watching and heeding, to understand, cover, that divided from, and facing this front, life, breath, and breath of life in man, also like to do, to make, if, for whatever reason, not of this word, blowing, command, with a mouth to speak, like a sword, as an edge of this cover, with an eye to see, experiencing, watching to heed, as to understand authority, goal, staff, and control toward protection, this binding bind, leading, and teaching, also like to do, practice, this, if ever, away from life, breath, this breath of life in man, and, if ever not, inside this tent wall, like a basket, surrounded, storing, containing, blowing, as if a womb, of this chief, and of this ox, also, like if, to do offense, if miss, if, for whatever reason, ever not having an eye to see, watching as to understand, experiencing cover, and hooked to secure to, and by this anointed tent peg, fixed, and added to this Yahuwah-given kingdom of life, perpetuation, also like inequity, perversity, if ever not having an eye to see, heeding, to understand cover, this appearance of this family, family house, tent floor plan, this door, and pathway, pathway to this door, and entry, also like a servant, subject, to look and behold this, life, breath, and this breath of life in man, thrust, hand, deed, to reveal life, also like to come to pass, exist, happen, if ever, not having an eye to see, heeding, and to understand cover, and this appearance of this family, house, and tent floor plan, this door, and pathway, pathway to this door, and entry, also like servant, subject, as if ever a staff with no chief, no goal, control toward no protection, authority, as if a bind of no power, chief, ox, also like of no, life, breath, and this breath of life revealed, and revealed in man, this of this arm, hand, thrust, hand, and deed, to physically observe, divided therefrom, and facing frontward, pressed from, and to repeat this, family, house, and tent floor plan, inside this tent floor plan, also like sits, dwells, remain, inhabit, settle, to marry, to see and experience cover in this mighty lifted up sea through this door, also like remain, endure, take one stand, stand over, inside this house, family, tent floor plan, seeing, understanding authority, this goal, staff, protection, bind, also beside, concerning this, life, breath, breath of man, revealed this house of this family, of this tent floor plan, of this arm, this hand, deed, to physically observe, to this mark, sign, and covenant, identification of people, place, thing, also like house, household, temple, dwelling, toward by authority, leading and protection, life and breath, to see, experience, understanding cover, and this anointed tent peg, authority, protection, goal, leading and teaching of this bind, all this lifted up, in and of this mighty, lifted up sea, water, blood, also like eternity, everlasting, forever, perpetual, this, and in life, breath of this family, house, tent floor, plan this son, offspring, seed of this Ysha, given kingdom of life, also like son, build, as a builder of a family name, cared for, rejoiced in, disciplined and trained, owing reverence, obedience, etc. to parents, in relation to this arm, worthy, soldier, mighty, very fruitful, anointed one, appointed one, of this family, house, and tent, floor, plan. Inside this, and as a son, offspring, heir, seed, continuing this perpetual, given kingdom of life, also like son, heir, pure, clean, went, comes inside this house, family, tent floor, plan seeing, understanding authority, this goal, staff, protection, bind, also like beside, concerning this of life, breath, this breath of life, in man, revealed this house of this family, of this tent floor, plan of this arm, this hand thrust, deed, to physically observe, of this mark, signed, covenant, identification of people, place, thing, also like house, household, temple, dwelling, by authority with this staff, yoke, controlled toward authority, this goal, protection, leading and teaching, this, life, breath about, of seeing, watching and heeding, understanding cover, this anointed tent peg to secure, this bind, protection by this staff, leading and teaching, by lifting up blood out of chaos to thus massive, mighty lifted up sea, also like eternity, everlastingly, forever, perpetually, if, when this chief, through this ox, of this mighty lifted up sea, blood, also like when, surely, this of this breath, life, this son, offspring, seed of this given kingdom of life, also like son, build as a builder of a family name, cared for, rejoiced in relation to this arm, worthy, structure, established, edify, tower, to those of this chief, oxen of this chief, mark, signed covenant, strong indicator and strength, identification of people, place, thing, of life, breath, and this breath of life revealed in man, also like to you, to bring inside this tent wall of blowing, word, by mouth and command divided therefrom, and face this front of this arm, and hand, deed, physically observing this, also like free, exempt, and by that mouth, speaking, using this word, blowing, command, like an edged sword opening to this tent door, and on this pathway, in life, breath, and through this breath of life in man, also like redeemed, ransomed, rescued, by and in this chief, and ox, lifted up blood, lifted up to this massive, mighty lifted up sea, of and by this mark, signed covenant, thus signature and identification of people, place, things in strength, also like truth, truthfully, faithfulness, reliability, in firmness, firmly, stability, in certainty, certainly, trustworthiness confirmed, to bring inside this tent wall of blowing, word, by mouth and command divided therefrom, and face this front of this arm, and hand, deed, physically observing this, also like free, and by that mouth, speaking using this word, blowing, command, like an edged sword opening to this tent door, and on this pathway, in life, breath, and through this breath of life in man, also like redeemed, ransomed, rescued, look, it gets revealed, life, breath, and this arm and hand, thrust hand deed all revealed, life and breath in existence. And you also like exist, happen,